What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. Thursday night football is in the books. The Jets get a much-needed win over CJ Stroud and the Texans, 21-13. And the big takeaway from this game is CJ Stroud's terrible performance. Is this brother in the middle of a sophomore slump right now? I get that he's down his two best receivers. The offensive line was allowing everybody to get hits on him. The brother got sacked 8 times and he was pressured on 51.6% of his dropbacks tonight. But he missed the open touchdown to John Mechie in the second half late in this matchup. And the brother just was off tonight. But even though CJ Stroud didn't have a good game, he still has the Texans in good position to accomplish all their goals. They're 6-3 on top of the AFC South. And this is still a team that has the capability of being able to win a playoff game or two. But with how bad this offensive line looks, your left guard, Kenyon Green, was like barbecue chicken out there. Quentin Williams was taking his lunch money. Once he got injured and Kendrick Green came in, the O-line played a little bit better, but it was still a shit show. And the defense for the Texans in the second half just completely melt down. Kamari Lassiter, he got routed up by Devontae Adams, broke his ankles on a critical third down play or fourth down, I believe it was. And then the dude allows Garrett Wilson to pull off an OBJ on third and forever for a touchdown. This just wasn't the Texans' night. And once Jalen Petrie got beat by Devontae Adams for that touchdown that put the Jets up, you kind of already knew that the writing was on the wall. And I don't believe that you can put this loss solely on CJ Stroud's bad performance, because how about that kicker? The dude missed 2 critical field goals. He missed that 56-yarder early in the game, and then his second missed field goal was a chip shot compared to the field goal that he had to attempt a few plays before that. And for the Texans moving forward, obviously, you got to figure out a way to correct your offensive line. The play calling has to be much better. Bobby Slowick, how about this dude? This man was a candidate for several head coaching jobs last year. And for as much respect as he has around the league, this dude has severely regressed as the OC for the Texans this year. So the Texans are inside the red zone, and this dude decides to cook up a Joe Mixon running back pass to CJ Stroud. That made no sense to me. What are you doing, my brother? Running the football with Joe Mixon. Don't make this dude throw the ball. He's not the damn quarterback. He's the running back, and he was eating out there tonight. Just hand that brother the rock. You can't even throw to save your life anyway, because every time CJ Stroud drops back the pass, the dude is getting berated by 3-4 New York Jets defenders. This just was a completely terrible performance by the Houston Texans overall. You just can't pin this loss against the Jets solely on CJ Stroud. As bad as he played tonight, the brother still has played better than Patrick Mahomes. He has more touchdowns, less interceptions. He's going to shake back. If you listen to CJ Stroud in any interview, the dude is a football nerd. He just loves football. He's going to shake back. The Texans are going to be fine. I'm just really upset at how many fair weather fans are turning on this dude. You got somebody saying CJ Stroud was looking like Bryce Young tonight. At least CJ Stroud can actually get the ball past the 50-yard line. The Jets played a good game tonight. As a matter of fact, this is the best game that they've played and well over a month since they fired Robert Saleh. The defense made the necessary adjustments needed in the second half. The offense did as well. They were getting the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands faster. They were calling a lot of bubble screens, quick passes, and, the adjustments that they made were the sole reason why they won this game. This was one of those games that was a tale of two halves. The Texans had the upper hand in the first half, especially when you look at how ugly things got for the Jets. At one point, you had Malachi Corley, one of your younger players on offense. He scores a touchdown, but he pulls to Deshaun Jackson. He throws the ball before he officially crosses the plane, and the touchdown gets taken off the board. And at that point, you thought that this was going to be another one of those games where the Jets just beat themselves. You had a couple of costly penalties as well. On special teams, you had a roughing the punter, then you had a roughing the snapper, and then you're thinking, okay, here we go. The same story that we've seen from the Jets all season long is coming back to bite us in the butts tonight on Thursday night. But in the second half, I don't know what was said at halftime, but they look like a different football team. And although they are 3-6, I'm still not writing this team off just yet. If they lose next week or another game, their season is done. There's no way they're going to end up getting a wild card spot at 9-8. You at least got to go 10-7. But there still is a chance that the Jets can climb themselves out of this deep hole that they dug themselves into, because the talent is there. This is the best that this defense has played under Jeff Ulbrich since he took over as the interim head coach. I mean, the defensive line was absolutely dominating out there, and we knew that the Texans' offensive line was bad, but so is the New York Jets. But at least the Jets' offensive line played better in the second half as compared to the Texans' offensive line, who just was a shit show all afternoon. But this was a much-needed win for the New York Jets to keep their season alive, keep their optimism and hope alive in that locker room. Because if they would have lost this game, man, things would have been really difficult for Aaron Rodgers and company. But you know, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, they were on fire tonight. Breece Hall, he also had a really good game as well. Aaron Rodgers was pretty good. But the Houston Texans, this just wasn't one of their good games. It probably was the worst game that we will see this team play all season. And when they play the Detroit Lions next week, I expect a better performance out of CJ Stroud, because what we saw from him this game is not who CJ Stroud is. And he's not having a sophomore slump. He also is on pace to have a better season this year statistically compared to what he did last year. You know, he's going to figure things out. He's a smart player. He knows how to adapt his game. And it's not like the Texans don't have any capable receivers. Like John Metchie was open and CJ Stroud just couldn't hit him. And Tank Dell, we know how big of a stud he is. And we know how good Joe Mixon has been all year long. I've been really surprised how good Joe Mixon has been. I got him on all of my fantasy teams, surprisingly, and it wasn't really intentional. It's just that I was looking for running backs that didn't have a committee, and Joe Mixon happened to be one of the few, and he's been balling out this year. But I'm not about to turn on CJ Stroud, man. I got somebody hitting me up right now saying he has been struggling to do that for the past few games. Joe Mixon is carrying that team right now. Listen, bro, I love me some CJ Stroud, and he did blow that bag tonight for me, but I'm not about to turn on this brother, man. He's a pretty hard-working individual. He knows his football. He's going to shake back. I'm not expecting too many performances like we saw tonight out of CJ Stroud moving forward, but shout out to the Jets on a well-played game. They definitely won this game in the second half, and this was probably one of the more impressive wins that they had. It wasn't, super impressive performance. It wasn't one-sided domination, but, they overcame adversity. They made big plays when they needed them the most, and that Garrett Wilson catch is probably one of the greatest catches that I've seen in all my years watching football, second behind that OBJ catch, which kind of looked a little bit similar to it. But shout out to the Jets for getting a big win. 21-13 is the final. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Remember, we are not just a YouTube channel. You can find this episode and all of our other ones wherever you get your podcasts from. Apple, Spotify, Amazon. The JT Sports Podcast is available. Give us a 5-star review if you enjoyed. Follow us on Instagram at JT_, and on X at JT__. And I will see y'all guys shortly with another episode.